Welcome to today's video in this death series playlist. In this story, a couple did not consciously experience dying, even though one person, she was bleeding heavily, she had to go to the hospital, there was an emergency surgery going on. But what is even more important in this specific story is how they describe that they shifted timelines, because them as a couple had different memories about certain things. One person is adamant that object A has always been like this. Well, I couldn't say it, it's a TV. And the other person is like, no, I've never had that kind of TV you are talking about. I always had a TV like this. And then later on, when they moved together, it was about buying a fire extinguisher. And one specifically remembered all of the conversations, and even they had a fight about it. And then the other person like, no, this never happened. And then that fire extinguisher is not where it's supposed to be, and there was no trace of it ever being there. But listen to the story. And what's a little bit different now is I just discovered that I don't even have to read those anymore. AI is doing that for me, so don't be confused by this new voice now. It is an AI voice, but let's dive right in.
I'd like to preface this by saying my husband is an electrical engineer and I'm a teacher. We're not crazy people. So back when my husband and I were dating, my husband was in a terrible car crash. His truck hit black ice and he slid into oncoming traffic. His truck was completely totaled. So was the other truck he hit. The weird thing is, though, both he and the other guy were completely fine. Not a scratch on them. All my husband had was a bruise on his knee. The first responders were baffled, as was the towing company and insurance, when they realized no one had died/was severely injured. Fast forward to a few days after the crash, my husband comes over to my apartment. We're having a conversation about a university class we're both in, and he casually asks when I got the flat-screen TV sitting on my dresser. At this point, I'm very confused because I've had the little flat screen since I was 13 and had it the entire year and a bit we'd been dating. I asked him what he's talking about, as I've always had that TV. He told me to quit pulling his leg and asked me what I did with the old tube TV. I had no idea what he was talking about and told him so. He's convinced I had a tube TV. I proceed to get on Facebook and show him a picture we had taken 2 weeks prior with the TV in the background. It's a flat screen in the picture. My husband goes white like he's seen a ghost and just stares into space for a minute. His eyes started to water. I asked him what's wrong, and he said, "I swear to God, I'm not crazy. You've had a tube TV since we started dating. It was a tube TV when we took that picture." I brushed it off as his head being rattled from the accident, and he didn't bring it up again. However, any time we hung out in my room, he'd always look at the TV weird. Fast forward 7 years, my husband and I have been married for a few years and decide that we're ready to be parents. I'm not on birth control, and we decide whatever happens, happens. We're not actively trying, but not preventing it either. So we're on vacation in Italy, wandering around Rome, and I feel like shit. I had had my period the week before, and it was the worst one I had had in my whole life. As we're walking around, I am suffering from back pain, chills, and horrific cramping. I go to the bathroom in a cafe and hurl my guts out, have diarrhea, and realize I'm menstruating heavily. Obviously, I'm weirded out since I had just had my period the week before. I clean myself up, go back to my husband, and tell him I think I need a doctor. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but this is insane. It's getting to the point where I'm having trouble walking and I'm starting to feel pain in my shoulders. I don't want to ruin our vacation, but I'm starting to really worry. My husband is smarter than me, that sees the state I'm in and says I'm visibly paler than when I went into the bathroom and gets me help. 20 minutes later, I'm on a stretcher and being taken to the hospital. An hour after that, I'm being prepped for emergency surgery as the doctor tells me I have a ruptured ectopic pregnancy, I have heavy internal bleeding, and if he doesn't perform surgery, I am going to die. 6 hours later, I wake up very sore and tired. The doctor tells me I'm very lucky, and if I had waited any longer to seek medical attention, I'd be dead. My husband stays with me in the hospital the first night, then gets a hotel for the rest of my stay. week later, we're cleared to fly home, and I go through a grueling month of healing from the surgery. 2 months after our return, somehow my husband and I get on the topic of fires, and he goes on about the dangers of kitchen fires, and I say, "No need to worry, we're all set with the extinguisher in the closet." He looks at me like I have 3 heads and asks me what I'm talking about. I remind him about the extinguisher in the front closet where we keep the coats. We've had it for 3 years. He insisted we buy one when we bought our house. My husband shakes his head and tells me he has no idea what I'm talking about, and we don't have a fire extinguisher. I remind him about not only my memories of fighting about if we really needed one, where to put it, buying it from Home Depot, but also installing it to the wall in the closet. He looks at me with confusion and tells me none of that happened. I get up, go to front closet to show it to him, all the while cursing him for being an asshole, for forgetting our 2-week fight about it, and lo and behold, no extinguisher. Not only is there no extinguisher, there's no holes in the wall where I know we installed it. No fresh paint, this wall has never been touched. I insist he's moved it and fixed the wall, and ask why the heck he would play such a stupid prank. He continues to insist we've never had one, let alone talked about getting one. This goes on for several minutes. I'm approaching hysterics, telling him to quit playing with me when finally he says, "Now you know how I feel about that TV." We didn't speak about it for a long time. Then, after I found this thread, he brought up his theory that perhaps in another timeline, or dimension, whatever you want to call it, we both actually died, and we reset like a video game and the TV and extinguisher are glitches. I don't know if I agree with him. All I know is that I have never been so rattled in my whole life, and every time I get something out of the closet, I'm overwhelmed with this feeling of wrongness. I know it should be there, but somehow it's just not. I can't explain it. He says he will go to his grave swearing I had a tube TV.
So, okay, we talked about quantum immortality before. So when we die in one timeline, we shift to another timeline where that death did not happen. And of course, in that other timeline, some things may be different from the timeline we have been before. For example, there is a different TV. Or one situation happens, like buying that fire extinguisher, and in another timeline it didn't happen. Something else just came to me as I was editing this video. When we talk about the Mandela effect, we usually have a group of people shifting to another timeline where some things did not happen. The Mandela effect was named after Nelson Mandela. A collective of people remembered Nelson Mandela dying in jail, and they all have the same memory. They all describe the same pictures of the funeral that they had seen on TV. However, that did not happen. But of course, we don't always shift timelines as a collective. We, as individuals, keep on shifting timelines all the time. And I believe that when we die, it is just us shifting to another timeline. So in the beginning of the story, we have the man probably dying in this car accident. However, unlike the other stories I gave you, he has no recollection of that dying. And I think that that is the normal. I think we usually don't experience the glitch of dying and then shifting in time. That does happen for some people. I think it is supposed to happen because those can tell us about it and broaden our mind. However, I believe usually when we shift, we don't really have this conscious experience of shifting. We don't even take note of it. But he probably died in that car crash, just as he assumed, and then shifted to a timeline where he was confronted with another version of his girlfriend that back then, when she bought that TV, bought a different kind of TV. And then later on, when she was bleeding, maybe she did die, and then shifted to a timeline where they never bought that fire extinguisher. That explains why he doesn't remember it, because in his timeline, and by his, I mean that new version of him, he never experienced that. And on a side note, that also explains how we can manifest people, or how the revision technique works. If you have an argument with someone and you do the revision technique, 2 things can happen. Either you shift to a reality where that person still remembers the fight, but it just doesn't matter anymore. So it is not deleted from their mind, but it is deleted energetically. It just doesn't matter anymore. Or you shift into a timeline where that fight never happened. That can explain why we sometimes have completely different memories. Maybe you have experienced situations where you have been in an argument with someone, and then when you talk about it later on, you have completely different viewpoints. Of course, that is also due to psychology. We have filters in our brain, and we usually filter out everything that does not match our assumptions, but it could have been a timeline shift. But as I said, when you try to manifest someone, the version of them that wants you already exists simultaneously, and you can shift to that version of them that wants to be with you. So don't ever take no for an answer, and it doesn't matter who. The boss who didn't want to give you that raise, there is another version in this multiverse where they want to give you that raise, or where the company has the resources to give you that raise and they see your worth. And if you need a little extra help with that, you can of course check out my other content, my manifesting playlists, my affirmation and subliminal tracks that help you to reprogram your mind, and of course you can reach out for personal coaching. I have been coaching people for almost 2 decades now, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. The confusion it created to me also indicates that, yeah, every timeline is a little bit different, but to me it also highlights, yes, quantum immortality, it seems to be real. When we die in one timeline, we shift to another, which means that we are basically immortal. So what do you say about today's story? Please leave your comments below. Check out the entire Death Series playlist and my other content. I mean, I am a coach and I have been coaching for 19 years now in 2024. So of course you can benefit from my vast experience talking to thousands of people. I am also available for personal coaching. So if you are looking for someone who is very experienced, you can reach out to me, check out my other content. Please check out my new channel, Janine called Robotic Affirmations and Subliminal, because I decided to outsource my robotic affirmation and subliminal videos to the new channel. You still will find some of my old ones in this channel though. Check out the playlists, and please check out my other channel, subscribe there, because I want to help you to reprogram your subconscious mind to manifest anything you desire. So I do see you on my new channel or in personal coaching. Until then, I do wish you all the best now. Bye-bye. If you want to book your own custom-made affirmation or subliminal, you will find my contact information in the description box below.